his daughter, Julia. And it's nice to have them all. In 1971 now, this was the #1 song of the year. The group was Three Dog Night. Remember that? And the keyboardist was my next guest. He found himself in the center of the explosive world of rock and roll that you'd never know at the time. He was also a father, here to tell us about the other side of rock and roll father, which is not so wonderful, not so cutesy wootsy wootsy. It's Three Dog Night's Jimmy Greenspoon. We've been hearing how easy it is to be a dad and be in rock and roll, and Ozzy Osbourne was sitting there with 3 little children out of a Gainsborough portrait.
That's great.
Yeah, right? And adorable, smart kids going. What was your life like? You were very young when you became a father.
I was 21 years old, yeah. I wasn't your stereotypical rock and roll father. My priority wasn't to come off the stage and call up the daughter and bring home presents. My priorities at the time were to get as high as humanly possible, to single out some bimbo on the side of the stage and go, "You're mine tonight."
Right.
And basically forget that I had a family at home.
And how long did that go on?
With that marriage?
Yeah, I guess.
About 2 or 3 years.
So what happened with your daughter?
Basically what I did was, and she's from my first marriage, she was only about 1.5 years, 2 years old when I walked out on my wife when we got divorced. So I never got to experience the joys of being a father. I never saw her growing up, because she was raised by her mom. I never got to do any of that stuff.
Do you ever look back and say, I miss this, I miss the school play, I miss those dumb pictures on the refrigerator, which is so wonderful?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I do. Well, I'm making up for lost time now with my stepdaughters. I go to basketball games and, take clippings out of the paper and do all that stuff, but...
In the time when you were, the 70s, was the atmosphere different in rock and roll then? Or is it still as wild as it is now?
It's quite a bit different. I mean, it certainly was for me, and I can see it reflected, the difference reflected in the artists with whom I'm working now. Now they bring carrot juice to the studio more likely than Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
And I'm working with Lita Ford now, who was an original member of the Runaways. She runs 5 miles every morning. She hasn't had a drink in God knows how long, and it's wonderful. I mean, we actually get work done. It may not be quite as much fun, but it's much more productive.
Yeah.
And I can come home and get up and I do the same thing. I run every morning and I see my kids.
What about drug use? Was it absolutely throughout the whole industry at that time?
Oh, yeah. It was like, I was coming out of the 60s and the early 70s, so
Yeah.
every place you went, there were drugs.
What made you decide to clean yourself up? How much did you do? What did you do? How did you abuse yourself?
I did everything. I abused myself in so many ways, starting off in the 60s with doing about 400 acid trips, all the way to 10 years of heroin addiction.
How did you get off of heroin? That's the most difficult thing.
It was difficult. I had to reach inside myself and do it, but through an accident that I had when I had OD'd at the wheel of my car and hit a police car broadside, and numerous other things. We were doing a concert and I OD'd in Hawaii, and my hand was numb. I was paralyzed, and of course that didn't stop me then. But things like that finally made me to reach inside myself and say, hey, enough of this stuff. After 23 years, it's time to
to clean up.
Clean up and grow up.
What about you?
What about me?
Were you doing much drugs? When did you realize it's time?
Our band, we're from the Midwest, and we were more like more beer drinkers than anything, and that was more of the deal with us. The drugs weren't so prevalent, but they were always around. If you wanted them, you could take them, but like none of us, I feel bad. I'm still in the rock business, and I never shot heroin. Gee, it's almost like you feel sort of embarrassed in some ways, because it's like you don't have the great story that I almost OD'd. None of us did, and we did it. We were involved in music, and music was #1, and our band was always, I think, a bit different. We'd have drinks after the show, but never before. And I'd meet so many bands that they couldn't do the show unless they're completely trashed.
Was that the way you were?
I was trashed all the time.
Trashed all the time.
I never let it get in the way of my performance. I hit it very well, so I'd go on stage, just completely out of it, and then as soon as the show was over, boom, just fall over.
What about you? In between poetry readings. That's,
We've all had our experiences with drugs. Yeah, we grew up in the '60s, you know, and it was kind of cool at the time, or at least we thought so. And
what do you say now? Here we
it's hard, but you know, you get that great high and everything, but after a while, it gets to be less fun. The buzz doesn't have the same pleasure that it used to, and the hangovers are unbearable, especially when you have to get up and make breakfast.
We really serve as the guinea pigs for our children, I think. You know, I mean, they know the stories. I mean, if we're even partially honest, they know at least about the recreational drug use and what it can lead to, and they read magazines and they see their friends too. I mean, I don't know how it happened. I didn't consciously program Julia and the other kids, hopefully when it comes to their time, to avoid drugs. She tried this and that, you know, I'm sure. It was done before I even knew it. And she definitely did not want to follow in my footsteps.
I think it's a smarter group coming up now. Much more
The thing is to have dads that you can talk to it about, because, you know, because I could just go to my dad and say, you know, Dad, I tried this, and this is how I felt about it, and he's not going to say, well, you're grounded, go to your room, and I'm going to watch everything you do. And he'll talk to me about it, so I'm not threatened, and I'm not, you know, I'm not scared to talk to my dad, and I think that's another really good thing about having dad in the music industry.
We want to talk more about what it's like today and more about your daughter with your problems, and then I want to know what everybody's getting their fathers for Father's Day, okay? That's where I'm at, very shallow. We'll be back in a moment, so stay with us. We are back with our rock and roll dads, Jimmy Greenspoon of Three Dog Night, Chris Franz of the Talking Heads with his two sons, rock and roll producer Tom Werman and his daughter Julia, and Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick and his son Miles, okay? And we were talking, your daughter did not turn out so well, or is she all right now?
She's well now, but
Yeah.
I mean, she's had her problems with drugs and alcohol.
With drugs.
And, you know, getting arrested for drunk driving and things like that. And there's nothing I can really say. I can't say don't do it because...
You did it.
Yeah, it's like, well, look at you. Look how you turned out. And It's
Yeah.
like...
Did you feel terribly guilty? Did you think if I had been there, maybe it would have been different?
Yes and no. The thing I felt guilty about is when I did have her for, like, my visitation rights, I'd usually let her sit in a car while I went up to my dealer's house to score something. And I was supposed to be taking her to the zoo, and when I took her to the zoo, I'd be passed out.
So she saw it.
She saw the real seedy, ugly side of, you know,
Yeah.
me and the whole business.
Yeah. At what age did you say you started to clean yourself up?
I've been clean for 6 years now, so 85 was when I went in the hospital.
Which is great. Great that you're back at this. Now let's get to happier things. It's Father's Day. Tell me the nicest thing about your dad.
The nicest thing?
Yeah, one nice thing. What do you like a lot about your dad?
Oh, boy. Probably that he loves my mom a lot, as much as he does, because he's gone so much.
That's very nice. Okay. What about you?
That he's such a great family man. I mean, that he really does take the time, and he takes his summers off to stay with us and to be with us on our vacations, takes us away every vacation, you know, every Christmas Mammoth, every summer Nantucket, no questions asked, and that's the family time. And that I can talk to him is really a great thing.
Okay, Robin, what do you think is terrific about your dad?
Best thing about my dad is he's like really cuddly, and also also he's really nice to me, and sometimes he gets a little mad, but he's really nice.
What do you think is nice about your dad?
Me?
Yeah.
You must be able to think of something.
I can't remember what I'm supposed to say.
All right. Are your fathers alive?
No, he passed away 6 years ago.
Did you have a good relationship?
Not really.
Sad.
Towards the end, right, he never got to see me clean and sober, so it's...
Yeah. Another guilt thing.
Yeah.
What about you? Good relationship with your dad?
Yeah, and it's better now than it ever was. My dad was a general in the Army, and then he retired from the Army and became a lawyer. And I guess I grew up in what you could say is a very conservative household. But he bought me my first drum set, gave me lessons, came to the concerts.
That's great.
So
I'll go down, but we have to be back. We're back in a moment. But first, in the spirit of Father's Day, here's a message from your friends at JCPenney, where fashion comes to life. Then we'll be back. I'm going to tell you how to get free tickets. Just send a self-stamped addressed envelope to
Joan Rivers Show, 524 West 57th Street, New York, New York, 10019, or call 212-975-5757.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Talking with our rock and roll dad, Jimmy Groonspoon, Three Dog Night, Chris Franz of Talking Heads with his sons, and rock and roll producer Tom Werman with his daughter Julia, and Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick and his son Miles. And we were up to you. Did you remember your dad? Is he still alive?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, he's 84, and he's very healthy.
And was it a good relationship with your dad?
Yeah, it has, as Chris said, it's much better now than it used to be. If there was no peace at one time, we've made peace. I mean, he definitely had other things in mind for me. He went to Harvard Business School. I went to business school because he wanted me to, but then I really just didn't. I turned my back on business after 1 year in business.
But you have to do what you want to do.
You definitely have to do what you want to do if you want to succeed.
Yeah, that's absolutely. What about you, Rick?
My father was and still is a singer. He sings opera and sings at Temple, and also sings at the regular churches, and he's made about 40 albums, and I used to travel with him. By the time I was 10 years old, I'd been in 49 states and Canada and Mexico, so I'm used to this, and I'd like to wish my father Happy Father's Day.
That's nice, that's nice. Now, last, because I'm very shallow, as I keep saying. What?
He's nuts, too. He's
great.
nuttier than I am, so.
Thank God we are.
Yeah, so.
Thank God we all are crazy. What are you getting your dad for Father's Day? Tell him now.
Nothing. Sounds mean, but he doesn't ask for anything except socks and underwear. And you get that? That's Christmas.
Socks and underwear, silly, huh? Yeah. What are you getting, Julia?
Clothing.
Okay.
I picked out his outfit. I'm very into clothing and what he wears, and so I dress him.
Okay. What about you, Rob?
Me and my dad are gonna go to a Guns N' Roses concert at Lake Compound.
All right.
And also, some of you might have heard this on 95.9 The Fox. These things called the cookie bouquet. They're like these chocolate chip cookies on stems. You can eat them.
Yeah. So you're gonna get those?
Yeah.
Oh,
probably.
great.
He could be more cuddly.
I thank you all very much. I wish you all happiness and just lovely to have you on the show. Please all come back individually again. And we'll be right back in 1 second. In Central Park. Diane Carroll, singing sensation Peebo Bryson, and my favorite part of every Monday, gossip, gossip, gossip. Have a great weekend, and happy Father's Day.